I adore everything about my wife. But one day, as she was sitting in the car, she unintentionally let the illusion shatter. It happened so fast, so absurdly, that for a split second, I thought I was imagining it. I was in the passenger seat, adjusting the AC, and Madison was scrolling through her phone, completely relaxed. Then her thumb slipped, not in a dramatic, cinematic way, just a tiny, thoughtless slip of the finger. But it was enough. Enough for me to see a message pop up. Just one, from a name I didn't recognize. Ethan. Can't stop thinking about last night. The words were there, plain, direct, sitting right between us like an open wound. I didn't say anything at first. My mind was scrambling, flipping through mental files of every Ethan I could think of. Coworker, client, friend of a friend. No Ethan. And definitely not one who had a last night to think about with my wife. My pulse picked up. I glanced at her. She was still looking at her phone. But now she was typing. I didn't even need to read the message to know it wasn't the kind of reply a married woman should be sending another man. Something took over me. I didn't even realize I was moving until my hand shot out, grabbing the phone right out of her fingers. Who's Ethan? Madison jerked like I just splashed ice water on her. Her head snapped to me, eyes wide, lips slightly parted, and for a moment, just a fraction of a second, I saw it. That flicker of pure, unfiltered panic. Then, just as quickly, it was gone, replaced by something else. Annoyance. What the hell, Adam? Give me my phone. She reached for it, but I yanked it away. My heart was pounding now, hammering against my ribs, because I knew. I already knew, but I still wanted to hear her say it. Who is Ethan? I asked again, my voice dangerously steady. Madison let out a breath, rolling her eyes like I had just accused her of something stupid, like forgetting to take out the trash. Jesus, Adam, he's just a friend. Can you not be so damn dramatic? A friend. A friend who couldn't stop thinking about last night. I turned the phone so I could read the rest of the conversation. Madison lunged for it, but I dodged her easily, scanning the screen. My vision went blurry at the edges, rage tunneling my focus. Ethan, you look so good. I wish we had more time. Madison, me too. I miss you already. My stomach turned. A sick, twisting feeling clawed up my throat. She missed him already? Already? How long had it been? Hours? Less? Madison was talking, her voice sharp, defensive. But I couldn't process the words. All I could hear was a dull ringing in my ears. Then she did something that made my blood run ice cold. She laughed, not a nervous laugh, not an ashamed one. A mocking laugh. A "you're so fucking stupid" laugh. Oh my God, Adam, you're being insane right now. She snatched the phone from my hands, stuffing it into her lap. It's not what you think. Jesus, you're so paranoid lately. Paranoid. That was the word she chose. Not sorry. Not let me explain. Not I can fix this. I stared at her, barely recognizing the woman in front of me. Because in that moment, it wasn't about Ethan anymore. It wasn't about the texts. It was about the way she looked at me. Like I was the problem. Like I was the idiot for catching her. And then, without breaking eye contact, she reached for the gear shift and slammed the car into drive. We're going home, she said, her voice clipped, final. I'm not doing this with you right now. And just like that, the conversation was over. Or at least that's what she thought. But I wasn't done. Not even close. The drive home was suffocating. The air in the car felt thick, heavy, like I was drowning in it. Madison kept her eyes on the road, her fingers gripping the steering wheel just a little too tight. Her jaw set in that stubborn way she always got when she thought she was winning an argument. Because that's what this was to her, an argument. Not a confession. Not an apology. Just another petty fight she planned to bulldoze through until I gave up. But I wasn't going to give up. Not this time. I stared at her, waiting. Waiting for her to say something. Waiting for anything that resembled remorse, regret, guilt, hell, even a lie that wasn't so lazy. But she said nothing. Just turned on the radio like this was any other night. The audacity of it burned through me. Pull over. She ignored me. Madison. My voice came out steady, too calm for what I was feeling. I said pull over. She exhaled sharply, shaking her head. For what? So you can keep acting crazy? I told you. Pull Over. Maybe it was the way I said it. Maybe she realized I wasn't just gonna let it go. Either way, she let out an exaggerated sigh and swerved into the nearest parking lot. A shitty gas station with flickering lights and a busted-up ice machine. The moment she threw the car into park, I was already unbuckling my seatbelt, turning to her fully. "Tell me the truth," she scoffed, running a hand through her hair. "I did tell you the truth. He's a friend." "Bullshit." I leaned in, my pulse pounding in my ears. "Do I look like an idiot to you?" She smirked, shaking her head. "You're acting like one." I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. "Let me see the messages." "No." And just like that, I knew. Not that I didn't already. But there was something so damning about the way she said it. No hesitation. No fake confusion. No scrambling to cover her tracks. Just a flat, unwavering no. She wasn't even trying to convince me anymore. Something inside me snapped. "Are you fucking serious?" I let out a bitter laugh, shaking my head. "You're not even gonna pretend? You're just gonna sit there and look me in the eye and lie to me?" "I'm not lying." She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms over her chest like a bratty teenager caught sneaking out. "You're blowing this out of proportion." "Blowing what out of proportion?" I threw my hands up. "That you're talking to another guy behind my back. That you miss him already. That he can't stop thinking about last night." She flinched, just slightly, but covered it up with a huff. "Jesus, Adam. It's not. Are you sleeping with him?" That got her. For the first time since this started, her expression shifted. Just a flicker of something, hesitation, guilt, maybe even fear. But it was there. She swallowed, glancing away, her fingers tapping against her knee. I waited, the silence stretching between us like a blade. Then finally, "You really want to do this here?" she muttered. I let out a sharp breath, shaking my head. "You're unbelievable. I haven't slept with him," she said, her voice suddenly softer, like she was trying to convince herself more than me. "It's not like that." I stared at her, deadpan. "You expect me to believe that?" She lifted her chin. "Yes." And that was it. That was the moment I saw her for what she really was. Not the woman I thought I knew. Not my wife. Not my best friend. Just a stranger sitting in the driver's seat, lying through her teeth, expecting me to swallow it like I always did. I opened the door and stepped out. "Where are you going?" "Home," I said, "but not with you." I slammed the door shut before she could say another word. I walked. I didn't know where the hell I was going, but I walked. The gas station was on the corner of some shitty, half-lit street, and the air was thick with that humid pre-storm tension. My fists were clenched so tight I could feel my nails biting into my palms. But I barely noticed. My mind was a mess. Flashes of those texts, Madison's blank stare, the way she had laughed when I confronted her. I heard the car door slam behind me. "Oh, for God's sake, Adam." Her voice was sharp, cutting through the night like a blade. "Are you seriously just gonna storm off like a child?" I didn't stop, didn't even look back. "Adam." Her footsteps slapped against the pavement as she ran after me. And a second later, she grabbed my arm. "Would you just stop for a second?" I yanked my arm away, spinning to face her. "Why?" "So you can lie to me some more." She let out a frustrated groan, shoving a hand through her hair. "Oh my God. You're making this into some huge dramatic thing when it's not." I let out a hollow laugh, my chest rising and falling like I had just run a marathon. "Not a huge thing?" I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "You're screwing around with another guy behind my back, Madison." She flinched, just barely, but I caught it. Then, in a move so infuriatingly her, she rolled her eyes again. "Oh my God, Adam. I am not screwing around with anyone." "Really?" I crossed my arms. "Then tell me, what exactly happened last night?" She pressed her lips together, her gaze flicking away. I barked out a humorless laugh. "Yeah, that's what I thought." She groaned again, rubbing her temples like I was the one giving her a headache. "You know what? Fine. You want to know what happened? Nothing. We talked. We had some drinks. And yeah, maybe we flirted a little. But you flirted," I snapped, stepping even closer. "Are you fucking kidding me right now?" "It wasn't serious," she shouted back. "Jesus, Adam. Stop acting like I murdered someone. I was just having fun. It didn't mean anything. Didn't mean anything. I stared at her, feeling something inside me crack wide open. You're unbelievable. She let out a sharp breath, shaking her head. I don't get why you're so upset. Because you cheated, Madison. The word tasted like poison in my mouth. You cheated on me. And you don't even have the decency to admit it. Her lips parted, and for a second, just a second, I thought I saw something real. Some sliver of guilt. But then, as fast as it appeared, it was gone. And she smiled. Not a sweet smile. Not a guilty one. A condescending smile. A "you're so pathetic" smile. You're so dramatic. She murmured, tilting her head. It was just a little fun. I could barely breathe, barely think. A little fun? She shrugged. You're overreacting. I took a slow step back, staring at her like she was a stranger. And maybe she was. Maybe she had been for a long time, and I was just too blind to see it. I don't even know who you are, I whispered. She sighed, exasperated, crossing her arms. Oh, please, don't act like you're some innocent little victim. You're just mad because someone else gave me attention. And you can't handle it. I went still. She smirked. That's what this is really about, isn't it? You're insecure. My vision blurred with rage. Insecure. Not betrayed. Not heartbroken. Insecure. I took one last look at her. The woman I had loved. The woman I had trusted. And then I turned around and walked away. This time, she didn't follow me. That I didn't go home. I didn't know where the hell I was going. But I knew I couldn't go back to that house. The house where her perfume clung to the sheets, where her laugh still echoed in the walls, where every room was a reminder of just how deep this betrayal ran. My legs carried me down the street, past flickering streetlights and shuttered storefronts, until I found myself outside a bar. The kind of place with neon beer signs in the windows and a jukebox playing old rock songs just loud enough to drown out your thoughts. Perfect. I stepped inside, barely registering the scent of cheap liquor and fried food. The place was half empty. Just a few scattered groups, a couple of guys hunched over the bar, a bartender wiping down glasses. I walked straight to the counter and slid onto a stool. What'll it be? The bartender asked, barely looking up. Whiskey. My voice sounded foreign to me. Flat, drained. The glass was in front of me within seconds. I knocked it back without thinking, letting the burn scrape down my throat. It didn't help. I signaled for another. I barely noticed when someone sat down beside me. But then, tough night. The voice was smooth, vaguely amused. I turned my head slightly, just enough to see a woman watching me with a raised brow, mid-30s, blonde, sharp eyes that missed nothing. She stirred a cocktail lazily, her red-painted nails tapping against the glass. I exhaled through my nose. Something like that. She smirked. Let me guess. Wife trouble. I let out a humorless laugh. You could say that. She tilted her head, eyes gleaming. She cheat. That made me pause. I turned fully to her, studying her face. How the hell did you know that? She shrugged, taking a sip of her drink. Call it a talent. I shook my head, laughing bitterly. Yeah, she cheated. The words came out easier this time. Like saying them out loud made it more real, more permanent. The woman clicked her tongue. And let me guess. She lied about it. Made you feel like you were the crazy one? I blinked. For a second, I almost thought she knew Madison. That she had somehow been in the car with us, heard every word of that fight. Yeah, I admitted. That's exactly what she did. She smirked, swirling her drink. Textbook. I frowned. You sound like you've seen this before. She gave a half shrug, glancing toward the door like she was debating saying more. Then finally, let's just say, I've dealt with my fair share of lying spouses. Something about the way she said it, cool, measured, like she was holding something back, made my curiosity flicker to life. But before I could ask anything else, she leaned in, lowering her voice. You still love her? My stomach twisted. I don't know, she hummed. What's stopping you from leaving? That made me pause, not because I didn't know the answer, but because I did, and I hated it. I dragged a hand down my face. I don't get it. Why do people do this? If you're not happy, if you want someone else, Why not just leave? The woman smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Because people like that? She leaned in just slightly, her voice dropping to something almost conspiratorial. They don't want to leave. They just want to see how much they can get away with. A chill ran down my spine, 'cause deep down I knew she was right. Madison wasn't sorry. She wasn't ashamed. She hadn't even tried to lie well, because she didn't have to. She had already decided I wasn't going anywhere. The realization settled in my chest, heavy and suffocating. And that's when I knew. I had to prove her wrong. I don't remember leaving the bar. 1 minute, I was sitting there, that woman's words slicing through me like a blade. The next, I was outside again, the cold air hitting my face as I pulled out my phone. My hands were steady now. My mind was clear. If Madison thought I was just gonna roll over and take this, she was dead wrong. I scrolled through my contacts and pressed a name I hadn't dialed in months. It barely rang twice before he picked up. Adam. Josh's voice was groggy, confused. Dude, it's almost midnight. I need you to let me crash at your place, I said. No small talk, no explanations, just that. Pause. Then, what happened? She cheated. Silence. Then, low and furious. Are you kidding me? I let out a breath. I wish. Get your ass over here. I hung up and started walking. Josh lived maybe 15 minutes away, and I welcomed the distance, the time to breathe. But with every step, the anger built again, because now that the shock was wearing off, I was remembering things. The way she had pulled away from me the past few months, the sudden excuses, the weird, quiet moments where she'd stare at her phone, smirking at messages I never got to see. I should have seen it earlier, but I hadn't, because I had trusted her. And now, she was probably sitting at home, sipping wine on the couch, completely unbothered, maybe even texting him, telling him about our fight. I clenched my fists. That smirk she gave me, that mocking laugh. She had looked me in the face and made me feel like I was the fool for catching her. I wasn't going to let her win. When I got to Josh's place, he was already at the door, arms crossed. Tell me everything. I did. I told him about the texts, the way she laughed when I confronted her, the way she acted like I was crazy. Josh listened, his jaw tightening more and more as I spoke. When I finished, he let out a sharp breath. That's insane. I nodded. Yeah. She didn't even try to deny it. Oh, she tried. Just not very hard. Josh shook his head. Man, what's the plan? And that was the question, wasn't it? I had to leave her. That wasn't even a question anymore. But just leaving felt incomplete, like letting her off the hook. She thought she could humiliate me and walk away untouched. I needed her to feel what I was feeling. I sat back thinking, you still have that buddy who does IT work? Josh frowned. Yeah, why? I looked him dead in the eye. I want to know everything. Josh's eyes widened. Then, slowly, his lips curled into a grin. Oh, he said, nodding. Now that is a damn good idea. Josh's buddy, Mark, was exactly the kind of guy you wanted when you needed dirt on someone. Quiet, unassuming, but dangerous with technology. The kind of guy who could find out what you ate for breakfast 3 years ago if he really wanted to. We met up at a diner the next morning. I hadn't slept, but I didn't feel tired. I felt wired. Adrenaline still humming under my skin, keeping me sharp. Mark slid into the booth across from me and Josh. Setting down his coffee like this was just another casual Saturday morning. Josh didn't waste time. Think you can get into Madison's stuff? Mark raised a brow. Define stuff. Phone, email, sushi house. I want it all. Mark took a sip of coffee, considering. That depends. Do you have access to her devices? I clenched my jaw. Yeah. Madison never hid her passwords from me. Not because she trusted me, but because she never thought I'd check. She had gotten comfortable. Mark smirked. Then this'll be easy. I slid her laptop across the table. Start with this. It took Mark less than 20 minutes to get into her accounts. The moment he did, my stomach twisted, because I wasn't just going to confirm she cheated. I was going to see exactly how deep this went. Mark scrolled through her messages first. My heart pounded. And then, there it was. Ethan. I can't wait to see you again. When's he gone? Madison, next weekend. I'll tell him I'm at a work retreat. We'll have the whole place to ourselves. I went still. Josh cursed under his breath. She's bringing him to your house? I gritted my teeth. Our house. Mark kept scrolling. Ethan wasn't the only one. There was another guy, Ryan, and another, Chris. All of them with the same flirty, intimate messages. Different names, same pattern. She had been doing this for months, maybe longer. I leaned back in the booth, staring at the screen. Jesus Christ. Josh was gripping his coffee mug so tight I thought it might shatter. She's a serial cheater. I let out a bitter laugh. And I was worried about one guy. Mark glanced at me. You want to keep going? I exhaled through my nose, my mind racing. No, I said finally. I've seen enough. Josh shook his head, furious. So what now? Divorce. I looked at him, then at Mark, then back at the messages. And then I smiled. Oh, I'm gonna divorce her, I said. But first, I'm gonna ruin her life. The plan came together fast. I didn't just want to leave her. I wanted to destroy the little world she built while she was making a fool out of me. Mark was more than happy to help. He pulled everything, texts, emails, call logs, even deleted messages. Every lie, every meetup, every excuse. I had timestamps, screenshots, locations. She thought she was smart. She thought she was careful. She was neither. And the best part, she didn't even know she had already lost. That night I went home. Madison was on the couch, legs curled up, sipping a glass of wine like nothing had happened. When I walked in, she barely looked up from her phone. Oh, look who finally decided to stop sulking, she said, smirking. I almost laughed. She still thought she had the upper hand. I tossed my keys on the counter and sat across from her. Leaning back like I didn't have a care in the world, she raised a brow. What? I smiled. You free next weekend? That threw her off. What? I was thinking we should take a trip. I tilted my head, watching her closely. Just the two of us. Get away for a bit. For just a second. Something flickered in her eyes. Panic. Then she scoffed, rolling her eyes. God, you're so desperate. I shrugged. Come on, let's do something fun. A weekend getaway. Just me and you. No work, no distractions. She let out an exaggerated sigh, shaking her head. Adam, I already told you. I have a work retreat next weekend. I grinned. Oh, right. I pulled out my phone, scrolled, and turned the screen toward her. Madison, next weekend. I'll tell him I'm at a work retreat. We'll have the whole place to ourselves. Her whole face changed. She went rigid, eyes locked on the screen, lips parting just slightly. Go on, I said. Tell me more about your work retreat. Her breath hitched, just barely, but I caught it. Then, like the pathetic liar she was, she laughed. A high, forced sound, like she thought she could still talk her way out of this. Oh my God, Adam, are you spying on me now? I didn't stop smiling. Spying? No. Catching you? Yeah. She rolled her eyes, but there was something new in her expression now. Something tight. This is so stupid. I hummed, scrolling again. Which part? The fact that I know about Ethan? Or the fact that I know about Ryan and Chris too? Silence. Dead, suffocating silence. I watched her face closely. The way her fingers tightened around her wine glass. The way her jaw clenched. And then suddenly, she threw the glass. It shattered against the wall. Deep red streaks sliding down the paint like blood. I can't believe you went through my stuff, she screamed, jumping to her feet. I stayed seated, completely calm. I can't believe you're a cheating, lying piece of garbage. Her face twisted in fury. You had no right. I stood, cutting her off. No right? No right to find out my wife has been screwing multiple guys behind my back. I let out a sharp laugh. Are you hearing yourself right now? She scoffed, crossing her arms. You're so fucking dramatic. I shook my head, chuckling. You know what? Keep thinking that. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Because I want you to feel safe, Madison. I want you to think you still have control. I leaned in, voice dropping even lower. Because when this all blows up in your face, I want to see the exact moment you realize you lost. And for the first time ever, Madison looked scared. She opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time in our entire relationship, Madison had nothing to say. No sarcastic remark, no condescending smirk, no lazy lie to throw in my face. Just pure, unfiltered fear flickering behind her eyes. I wanted to savor it. I let the silence stretch, watching her process the reality of the situation, watching her feel the weight of what was coming. Then, finally, she scoffed, crossing her arms over her chest like a spoiled child. "So what? You found some texts. Big deal." I grinned. "Oh, sweetheart, you have no idea. I didn't just find texts," I said, voice smooth. "I found everything." Her nostrils flared. "You're bluffing." I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, and let the proof play. A recording, one of many. Ethan's voice, loud and clear. "God, last night was amazing. I swear, if I have to hear about your husband one more time." Madison's voice, softer but unmistakable. "Shut up. He has no idea." I hit pause. She froze. I tilted my head. "Keep telling me I'm bluffing." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. I took a slow step forward. "Here's the thing, Madison. I know every single guy you've been screwing behind my back. I know how long it's been going on. I know about the fake work trips, the sudden overtime, the girls' nights that never actually happened." I pulled another file onto the screen. A spreadsheet, organized, detailed. Chris 4 times. Ethan too many to count. Ryan, you barely lasted a month with him. I let out a low chuckle, shaking my head. "You really thought you were untouchable, huh?" Her face twisted with something wild, something panicked. "You're fucking crazy." "No, Madison," I said softly, stepping even closer. "I'm just done being your idiot." Her breathing was uneven now, her hands trembling slightly at her sides, but she still had that defiance in her eyes, like she thought she could claw her way out of this. "Okay," she said suddenly, her voice forcibly steady. "You got me. I screwed up. But we can fix this." I laughed, actually laughed. "Fix this?" She nodded quickly, stepping toward me now, her whole posture shifting. The anger was gone, replaced by something calculated. Desperation. "Adam, listen," she said, her voice dipping into that soft, sweet tone she always used when she wanted to manipulate me. "We've been together for years. Are you really gonna throw all that away over this?" I raised a brow. "Oh, now it's this? Just a tiny mistake, right?" She forced a small, pitiful smile. "You know I love you." And there it was. The final play, the last desperate attempt to keep control. I let out a slow breath, staring at her. Then I smiled. "You love me." I repeated. She nodded quickly, eagerly. "Of course." "Cool." I pulled another document onto my phone. "Then you'll love this." I turned the screen to her. Her face dropped. It was the divorce papers, already drawn up, already signed, filed this morning. Her breath caught. "What the hell is this?" I grinned wider. "Your freedom." She snatched the phone from my hand, scrolling frantically. You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm very serious." I took the phone back, pocketing it. "I don't need your signature, by the way. Infidelity clause covers that." Her mouth opened, then snapped shut. Her whole body went stiff, her brain struggling to catch up. I leaned in one last time, dropping my voice to a whisper. "I hope Ethan has a spare room," I murmured, "because as of Monday, you're homeless." Her eyes went wide. "And before you think about running to your boyfriends for help." I smirked. "I already sent them everything. Every text, every call log, every dirty little secret. They all know about each other now." Her entire body locked up. She stumbled back, shaking her head. You didn't." I shrugged. "Oh, but I did." And then finally, Madison broke. She screamed, shoving everything off the coffee table in one violent sweep. Glass shattered, papers flew, wine spilled onto the floor, but I was already walking away, because I won. She was still screaming when I walked upstairs. I could hear her pacing, hear the panicked breaths. The way she kept muttering no, no, no under her breath like she could somehow undo everything I had done. She couldn't. This was checkmate. I went into the bedroom, my bedroom now, and pulled a duffel bag from the closet. I didn't need much. Just enough to last me a few days while I figured out my next move. At this house, she was the one leaving. I could still hear her downstairs, her voice rising and falling in frantic bursts, calling Ethan, Ryan, Chris, probably, trying to salvage whatever was left of her pathetic little empire. I let her. I packed my things, took my time, let her stew in the mess she created. Then, footsteps, fast. A second later, she was in the doorway. Her face was wild red, blotchy, her hair a mess from running her hands through it too many times. For the first time since this started, she looked completely, utterly unhinged. "You ruined my life," she shrieked. I barely glanced up. "No, Madison," I said, zipping my bag shut. "You did that." She let out a ragged breath, clenching her fists. "You don't understand. I had everything under control." I laughed, actually laughed. "Oh my God, you're actually insane." Her nostrils flared. "I had them separate. I had rules. And then you." She let out a furious noise, gripping her hair. "You exposed me like I was some liar." I finished for her. Some cheater, some pathetic excuse for a wife. I stepped closer, voice dropping. "Because that's exactly what you are." Her whole body vibrated with rage. "You're just bitter. You couldn't satisfy me, so I had to go somewhere else." I snorted. "Is that what you're gonna tell yourself to sleep at night?" She smirked, breath still heaving. "I don't have to tell myself anything. I can get another man tomorrow. Someone better." I leaned in, smiling. "Then why are you still here?" Her smirk vanished. I let the silence hang, watching the realization sink in. She had no one. The men she thought adored her, gone. The marriage she thought she controlled, over. The house she thought she owned, not hers anymore. Her entire world had collapsed in a single night, and she knew it. Her lower lip trembled, her fists tightening at her sides. She opened her mouth, probably to say something cruel, something to hurt me, but I just smiled again. "You're pathetic," I said, "and I'm done wasting another second on you." Then I grabbed my bag and walked out. She didn't follow me. The cold air hit my face the second I stepped outside. It felt different, cleaner, lighter, like I had just shed 1,000-pound weight off my shoulders. Because I had. I walked to my car, tossed my bag in the back seat, and slid behind the wheel. I expected to feel something, anger, regret, maybe even sadness. But all I felt was peace. Inside, Madison was probably still standing there, still trying to figure out how the hell her entire world had crumbled in less than 24 hours. I smirked. I had warned her. She had looked me in the face and laughed, had treated me like I was nothing, had assumed I was too weak, too pathetic to ever fight back. And now, she was alone. No lovers, no security, no backup plan. I started the car. My phone buzzed, but I didn't even need to look. I already knew who it was. Madison. Her last desperate attempt. I let it ring. Then, at the very last second, I picked up. Silence. Then, finally, her voice. Soft, desperate. "Adam." I said nothing. She sniffled. "Please. I didn't mean." Click. I hung up, blocked her number, deleted every single message. Then, without another glance at the house we once shared, I pulled onto the road and drove away. For the first time in a long, long time, I was finally free.